So why exes come back when we move on? It's what we're going to cover today in this video. It's quite interesting because it's more or less what I do with my clients. And it's interesting, I'm always fascinated to the fact that every time my clients feel that they moved on, the ex come back. And I'm gonna explain you how this works, the mechanics of this dynamic, because it's very important for you. If you want to get back with your ex, you have to understand this jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Before I start, I want to remind you that I put together a quiz for you to know if you have any chance to get back with your ex. There's a link over there, there's a link in the description. Have a look, it takes 2 minutes to complete and it gives you a score telling you if you have any chance or not to get back with your ex. So, the evolution of resentment. What I'm going to introduce in this slide and the next is very important, so listen carefully. A breakup is full of tension, is full of resentment. Resentment that evolves through time. Very often I say a breakup, it takes about 30% of the relationship for someone to nurture the idea of a breakup. So if you've been together for 3 years, your ex has probably started to think about breaking up with you 1 year ago. Okay? The idea is when you're not needy after the breakup, when you're not clingy, your ex will forget what was wrong. There's an element of the tension and the resentment will be gone. Okay? It's kind of the release. I talk about the release phase after a breakup. And you come to a place, you transition to a place where you have a lot of resentment, a lot of tension, to a place where your ex would have potentially, most of the time, archive all that resentment. They won't feel that tension anymore, they won't feel that resentment anymore because of the distance. If, on the contrary, you're clingy, you're needy, you're harassing them, you're actually adding to the resentment and you're actually confirming them that they make the right decision. Simply put, I did this magnific graph. The first one is you're in love, but at some stage the resentment building up. You are failing to communicate your needs, there are life events preventing you from connecting. There's a variety of reasons people break up. And as this resentment builds up, your ex or your partner will decide, okay, I need to end this relationship. If you want to get back with them, you need first that resentment to reduce. The mistake people make is that they want to quickly as possible reattract their ex, failing to understand that they need first to let that resentment reduces. You will still have a bit of resentment, but the idea is to really reduce that amount of resentment. Recovery is taking the necessary steps to ensure we reduce all forms of anger and resentment. That's it. It's as simple as that. If you do that, you maximize your chance to get back together. The problem is it's of course a little bit harder than this because there's emotion involved. Sometimes we have those impulses, sometimes we feel bad, sometimes we feel a lack of motivation. But if I want to summarize, recovery is just making sure that you reduce all forms of anger and resentment. So think about whatever you do right now. Am I adding tension, stress in that resentment bucket? Or am I removing things from that bucket? The emotional impact. You have to understand that emotions are not taking the lead. What you're going through, very often, I see that and I help people as a counselor, that's my job, really looking at their emotion. It's really about how you can bring that awareness that sometimes your emotions are taking action, are driving your car. Because when you let your emotion take the lead, you communicate in a way that is actually building resentment, that is actually failing to listen to your ex or to address things. When you cry in front of your ex, you think that you'll feel better by crying. You feel that I need that emotional support from your ex, but you are making things worse. And the reason is because you've let your emotion take the lead. And also, it's very important because a lot of people are very anxious after a breakup. You can manage this anxiety if you understand how to deal with your emotion. Of course, our brains, the plasticity and the way you have to create new neural path takes time. But it's a process. And what you have to understand, even though you feel frustrated, is that as long as you make progress, that's good. You just don't want to stagnate. So if every day, and that's what I do with my clients, I ask them to rate their anxiety level, I ask them to rate few things, and we assess. And sometimes you feel like, okay, I haven't made any progress, and that's why it's good to have a coach, because I can bring them a few weeks before where, they rated themselves quite low, or they felt really low, and of course we sort of readapt and have a new standard, new default position. But a lot of people, when they don't get help, or when they are a bit not complacent, but it's very hard to let yourself drift because you're sad and you're depressed. It's a process, and you can manage your emotion, you can learn to manage your emotion, whether it's with a coach or a counselor like myself, whether it's with a therapist, someone that you know locally, you can do that work. The question is really about how you can ensure that you progress. It's a muscle. You don't get to gain muscles within a week. It takes almost daily steps, daily actions to get to that result. You don't need your ex. That's also something you have to understand. When you show this form of codependency, it's showing the wrong image to your ex. See it as a kid lost in a supermarket who's crying, like, I need my mom, I want my mom. Is this the image you want to project to your partner, to your ex? That you need them, that you are nothing without them. Be aware, because we sometimes have this attitude, because they love me, because they care about me, if I show them that I'm so much pain, so much distress, they'll be able to help me. This doesn't work. This emotional blackmailing doesn't work. It's actually killing all your chances. So it's not frequent, but I see a lot of people thinking this is a good strategy. No, it's the worst strategy ever. Never use this with your ex. And the idea of having someone to help you, or it could be a friend, doesn't need to be a coach. You need to build up confidence and let go of any form of codependency. So I'm actually working on a special course on codependency, because I think people will benefit from this, learning about how codependency build up the where it takes form in the childhood, and how you can remove those sort of framework. Because even if you don't get back with your ex, you would really benefit, and if I can help people to move away from those toxic framework, then I'll be happy with my work and with what I'm doing, and find that sense of purpose that I find every day doing my job. Anyway, stop about me. You're not fighting anymore. So you don't have to prove anything. It's so important. You don't have to prove anything. Yesterday I was on the phone with a client, and he was like asking me, should I do this, should I do that? And I was telling him, what you're doing is you're trying to prove her something, but that's not the point. You're beyond that. That's not the point. The point is not trying to find ways to showcase. You have your own life. And there's something sort of interesting happening when you start focusing on your things. When you start thinking like, okay, I'm shifting my focus. My life doesn't revolve around my ex anymore. My life revolves around myself. And it's not about being selfish. It's just about acknowledging that this is how things work. You don't need your ex. You don't need to fight. And it is particularly true if you are trying to get back with an avoidant ex. If you want to get back with an avoidant ex, dismissive avoidant partner, and they realize that your life revolves around theirs, they're going to feel so overwhelmed that they'll be like, no, I don't want this. I don't want someone who needs me. I don't want someone who is fighting for me. I don't want someone who's trying to prove something. It's too overwhelming. I want someone independent. I want someone who has his own life. So important if you want to get back with a dismissive avoidant. And what happens is you stop trying. It's so important. Not trying to get a yes, not trying to get approval. You're not trying to be either, you're too nice, you're too available, you're too eager. You can even play to sort of tease them. Be nice, but a bit funny and teasing them. The idea is to get back to an equal to equal. Because very often after a breakup, of course we are there. Of course we are there. We have that sense of rejection, we have that sense of, I need validation, I need acceptance. But when we are constantly feeding those thoughts, we are actually pushing ourselves lower and lower. So think about how can I bring myself to the same level. And that's sexy, and that's attractive, and that's how you can get back with your ex. So reaching this point of letting go can take time, I'm not going to lie. It takes time, it's a process. What I find very interesting is there's always the aha moment. Very often, and actually it's interesting because I got this message right before I started this video. A client of mine asked me not exactly those words because I did the slides before, but she was like, I'm okay with not being with him, but you think he's gonna call me? And I was like, do you see the contradiction? What's contradiction? You're telling her you're completely okay, you're fine with your life, you're happy. And then the next sentence you're like, do you think he's gonna call? So it's very important for you if you have those thoughts, if you really still, sometimes we sort of justify, we are lying to ourselves. We do that all the time. But it's a process. It's a process, and I'm not going to lie, having someone with you can accelerate the process. There's the saying like time heals all wounds. Of course it does. But if you can accelerate the process, that's even better. I'm not saying that if you get coaching with me, we're going to have an overnight success. It's not going to work like this. It's a process. Where every day we ensure that you let go, you ensure that you are emotionally more stable, that you have managed to refocus your attention on yourself, to redesign your life and have things revolve around yourself and build up that confidence and build up that self-esteem. So if you want to get in touch with me, if you want to discuss about this, don't hesitate, there's a link as well to book a free call and also to book consultation if you want to get started right away. I'll be more than happy to help you travel this journey together. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.